Okay, so we're going to have a little look at how we can produce pictures of our rooms or our layouts and so on. Now, there's two ways that we can look at a room. At the moment, under View, your View tools here, 3D View, you've got Virtual Visit and Aerial View. So at the moment we're in aerial mode, which basically means we're looking at this from above. If I hold down my mouse, I can move that aerial view around, I can get different angles on it, and basically I can use the roll button to zoom in and zoom out to a certain extent. Okay, now if I wanted to get an aerial view, perhaps something looking like this, what I would do is I would come up to my camera tool and I would click on the camera tool. The camera tool opens up another window. Now that window's got some options on it. Doesn't look like it's doing much at the moment. Quality control, you probably want to move quality up to best. Okay, once it's on best quality, you see you get extra things coming up here. Now you've got various things that you can change. You can change the time of day it is, and that involves what the sunlight will be like. So you can imagine the sun coming down, you've got windows or glass doors. Depending upon the time of day, you may get more or less sunlight coming through. So that's up to you to play around with, but you can change the times here to see what suits. You've got a tick here for add ceiling lights, so it knows that I've got ceiling lights already planted into this particular program. So if I've got that ticked, it's going to use those as well. This is where in the last video I mentioned about how you can change the power of the light bulb. So if we do a render and it's too bright, we can turn down the lights and then do another render to see how it goes. Okay, that's nearly all you need to know. There are some additional lenses, but at the moment I would leave it on default and see how that looks first of all. You've got the size in width of the picture. So bearing in mind, the bigger the size, the better the quality will be of the picture, but also the longer it takes to do a render. I'm going to try one here on 2000 pixels wide, which is quite a high quality, and I'm going to show you what that looks like after I've done the render. So literally all I do is click the create button. When it's finished, this save button will become active and I'll be able to save the picture just as a JPEG that I can then put into my portfolio or do what I want with. So here we go. So you'll see up here in this black area, it's going to go through and it's going to start rendering. It'll start taking little pictures. You see it's starting to go now, and it'll build that picture up into one big picture, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so as you can see now, the render's finished. I've got the save button active. I'm just going to save this into another folder. Hit save. So now I should be able to go into that folder and have a little look at it. Now this has come up pretty big because of the size that I rendered it at, but you can see now even at zoom quality that's pretty good. So that's how you do a render. We're now going to look at what's called the virtual views. So instead of looking at an aerial view, if I switch this now in 3D to virtual visit, I get a little person, and my little person's gone outside of that room to start with, so I'm going to bring him into that room, and I can do various things using the control handles on this. So if I change the elevation, or I can rotate the view and things like this, and you can see how that view is reflected down here. And what you want to do is get used to how you play around with this virtual view. Now one of the things that you'll find that you can do is to double click it and go in, and you can change some of the variables in here. So for instance, the eye elevation is the distance from the floor to the person's eye level. So depending upon you whether you want to look at something kind of flat or higher up, you can change the height of that. But probably the one that you may want to play around with, if you find that it looks like it's looking straight at the ceiling or straight at the floor or something, this head angle needs to be altered. And field of view is one that will allow you to see more of a picture. So if, at the moment it's on 63, if I bang that up to about 100, watch what happens when I click OK. Watch this view down the bottom here. Okay, you can see that that's a view that now appears to be from further away. The person, the virtual person, is still in the same position, but because I changed the angle of the view, okay, we get more into our picture. And in exactly the same way, if I come down to this bottom area and I use my mouse, I can hold down my left button and I can move and I can alter things on the head in terms of the angle using that way as well. The same thing happens when I'm happy with the view that I'm looking at. I can create a picture of it in exactly the same way by clicking up here, choosing to go for best quality. I'm actually going to reduce the size of this now to about 1200 just so it actually renders a little bit quicker for me. I'll leave the ceiling lights on because that light seemed to be pretty reasonable, and the same thing, I'll have another go. Okay, so that one's finished rendering as well, so I can hit save again. This time I'm going to call it room 2, I think, so I can differentiate it from the last one. And we'll have a quick look at that one as well to see what it looks like. Okay, so that's what this one came out like, and the same thing, I can zoom in a little bit on it, but you get the general idea. These lights are on now, providing illumination. You can see that's called shadows, it's called reflections on surfaces. Remembering that you can change the surfaces of these things yourself if you want to make them matte or glossy, and that'll have an effect on what your picture comes out looking like as well. So there you go.